Okay. Mr. Blackman, which matter are you here on?
I'm Miss Castillo.
Okay. We'll start with her.
And Your Honor, I'm going to be here for Anthony Blackman's arraignment today.
Okay, that one will be next on the list anyways.
Thank you.
No problem.
Next.
Okay, we're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Danielle Castillo. File number is 22-00802FY. Council appearance.
Fred Blackman on behalf of the defendant, Miss Castillo.
Thank you. And you are Danielle Aurora Castillo?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Castillo, I have a felony complaint here. It alleges that on or about August 19, 2019 through October 1st, 2019 in the area of 1320 Grand River Avenue, City of Lansing, Ingham County, State of Michigan, that you did allegedly contrary to law commit the act in count 1 on or about August 19, 2019, controlled substance delivery manufacturer of cocaine, heroin, or another narcotic less than 50 grams. It alleges that you did deliver less than 50 grams of a mixture containing the controlled substance cocaine, contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 284. That's a felony. The maximum penalty is 20 years in prison and or $25,000 in fines, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if for other convictions. There is a count 2 on or about September 17, 2019. It alleges that you did allegedly have a controlled substance delivery or manufacture of cocaine, heroin, or another narcotic less than 50 grams, and that you did deliver less than 50 grams of a mixture containing the controlled substance cocaine, contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 333.7401284. That's a felony again, and the maximum penalty is 20 years in prison and or $25,000 in fines. Again, a consecutive sentence may be imposed for any other felony. There's a count 3 that alleges that on or about September 19, 2019, that you did allegedly have a controlled substance delivery manufacturer of less than 50 grams of a mixture containing the controlled substance cocaine. This was done contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 333.7401284. Again, that would be a felony, maximum penalty 20 years and or $25,000, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed for any other felony conviction. Count 4 alleges that on or about September 24, 2019, that you did deliver less than 50 grams of a mixture containing the controlled substance cocaine, contrary to MCL 333.7401284. Again, felony, that's a maximum penalty 20 years in prison and or $25,000 in fines, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed for any other felony conviction. Lastly, there's a count 5, also controlled substance delivery manufacturer, alleging that on or about October 1st, 2019, that you did allegedly deliver less than 50 grams of a mixture containing the controlled substance cocaine, and that this was done contrary to MCL 333.7401284. Again, that's the maximum penalty, 20 years in prison and or $25,000 in fines, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed for any other felony conviction. Ms. Castillo, do you understand each of the charges and the maximum penalty for each of the charges?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You have the right to be represented by counsel, and you have retained counsel, at least for the purposes of today. You have Mr. Blackman present. He's placed his appearance on the record. You have the right to have an attorney with you at each stage of the criminal prosecution. If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, you have the right to have an attorney or to request to have an attorney appointed to represent you at the expense of the public. I'm assuming that because Mr. Blackman is here, you're waiving that right, but is that accurate, Mr. Blackman?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Castillo, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty, and you have the right to stand mute. You have the right to proceed to preliminary examination in this matter, and you have the right to have that examination within 21 days of today's date. At the time of your examination, you have the right to have the prosecution meet their burden of establishing that there's sufficient probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause sufficient to charge you with the crime. If this matter is to proceed beyond the preliminary examination, it will be bound over to the circuit court for a trial. You have the right at circuit court to have a trial by jury. At the time of jury trial, ma'am, you have the right to see, hear, or question any and all witnesses that the prosecution intends to call. You have the right to call your own witnesses or present evidence at trial that you believe would further a defense to the charge. You have the right to remain silent at trial and not have silence be used to prove or imply that you're guilty. You have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And you have the right to have the prosecution prove each element at trial, and they have to prove each element then beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you have any questions about your rights at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. You also have the right to be considered for pretrial release on bond, and we'll address your bond in just a moment. Are you currently on probation or parole?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Are you currently employed?
No, ma'am.
What's your home address?
1404 Glenrose, Lansing, Michigan, 48915.
Your phone number?
517-894-8563.
For the purposes of her arraignment, Mr. Blackman will enter in a plea of not guilty. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. Ms. Castillo, you're currently scheduled for probable cause conference before Judge Michael Anthony Flores. It's going to be on Thursday, September 15th, 2022 at 9 o'clock in the morning. That can be held virtually via Zoom, and you should have received a copy of the Zoom information along with your notice to appear. There's a preliminary examination that is currently scheduled for Thursday, September 22nd at 9 o'clock in the morning. Your preliminary examination, if it proceeds, will happen in person at the court. Do you have any questions, ma'am?
No, I understand, Your Honor.
Very good. Mr. Blackman, you can address bond.
thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I want to start out by saying that I did walk her in this morning to the jail to get her arraigned today. Judge, secondly, if the court would look at the charges and the dates of those were in 2019, the summer and fall of 2019. As a result of those particular charges, nothing was issued at that particular time because I don't want to state on the record, Judge, why they weren't issued, but it was for a reason that my client participated in regards to that. What happened after that, she did what she was told, and then what happened is she has some mental health problems, and which resulted in her getting some mental health help after that, Your Honor. And the reason we found out about this, Judge, because there were no charges issued until February of this year or March of this year, is she was picked up in Clinton County on a one felony count of cocaine and a driving under the influence. And when she was picked up, she was transferred to the hospital because of some medical reasons, and that there was this warrant sitting here, and they gave her a PR bond up there so she could take care of the stuff here. Tomorrow we have the formal arraignment on the PR bond with Judge Clarissio at 9 o'clock in the morning. She's single, she has 3 children, she has custody of those children. She collects SSI as a result of that. And it's my understanding that I've not represented her in the past, but there's been no, my understanding is that there's been no failure here. She has plenty of family in this area, and her mother has been in contact with me, and they both came in to retain me to take care of that. And she showed up everywhere I've asked her to show up. I think she's a good risk. I think she's a good risk to be out as a result of all this, and I asked the court to take that in consideration. I'm also asking the court if the court would consider a PR bond with certain conditions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, it appears that she was originally scheduled for an arraignment back on April 7th, and she failed to appear.
Okay, I did not
Did
know
you not
that.
get the summons?
Are you asking me, Your Honor?
That's correct. Why didn't you appear for your, according to the summons that was sent to you?
I never received that. I had no idea about these charges up until I was in Clinton County, Your Honor. I've never actually, if you look prior, I've never missed a court date ever up until this. And that's the reason, because I was unaware.
Okay, is your former address and address on Walnut Street?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that looks like that's where the summons was sent.
Okay, well, that would make sense why I didn't receive it.
Okay, so we have an updated address for you at this time. You also have representation or retained counsel on this matter. And you provided with the court the valid address. I don't believe that there's an immediate threat to the public safety. As indicated by counsel, this is a matter allegedly, or these are matters allegedly having occurred in 2019. And so I will go ahead and grant the request for personal recognizance bond at this time. Bond will be set in the amount of $15,000 personal recognizance. While out on bond, ma'am, you have the following conditions. You need to make sure you report to all of your future court dates, and you need to report on time. We've given you a copy of your notice for your next court dates. You should remain in contact with Mr. Blackman in case for some reason those court dates are shifted. And then you cannot travel outside of the state without prior approval from the court. You're not to engage in any assaultive or threatening behavior. You're not to purchase or possess alcohol or drugs unless you have a valid prescription. You're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon while out on bond. You need to report to pretrial services within 48 hours of your release from custody, and you'll be reporting to them weekly, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions today for the court?
So does that mean that I will be getting a bond that costs money? I wasn't.
No, personal recognizance is the same bond that Mr. Blackman said you got in the other court. It lets you be released with the belief that you're going to return based
Yes,
on your
ma'am.
word.
Okay, thank you so much, Your Honor. I'm sorry, this is a new process for me.
No problem. Any other matters for the record?
No, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're all set, ma'am.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Judge.
Your Honor.
Okay, so let's see. Anthony Blackman.
All the way to the table, please, Mr. Blackman. Thank you.
Okay, we're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Anthony Mark Blackman and file number 22-02367 FY, council of Terrence.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Adam Pfeiffer on behalf of the people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Lauren Sutter appearing today on behalf of Mr. Blackman for the purposes of this arraignment.
You're Mr. Anthony Mark Blackman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Blackman, I have a felony complaint here. It states or alleges here that on or about September 7, 2022, at the area of 1115 Dorchester Street, Apartment 6, City of Lansing, Ingham County, State of Michigan, that you did allegedly contrary to law commit the acts in count 1 of attempted assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder or by strangulation. It alleges that you did attempt to commit the following listed offense, and in the attempt did act towards the commission of that offense. It alleges that you but failed in the perpetuation or was prevented in the execution thereof, and that this was done contrary to MCL 750.92. It alleges that you did make an assault or attempt to make an assault upon a Christina Colson by strangulation or suffocation, contrary to MCL 750.84. That's a felony, and the maximum penalty is 5 years. And the court shall order law enforcement to collect a DNA identification profiling sample. Here's a count 2 of domestic violence, and it alleges that you did make an assault or assault and battery upon a Christina Colson, an individual with whom you had a dating relationship, and that this was done contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 750.812. Restitution may be ordered as this offense may have resulted in damage to another individual's property or physical injury or death to another individual. That's a misdemeanor. Maximum penalty would be 93 days and or $500 in fines, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. However, in this case, there is a third offense notice, and so it states, take notice that the defendant was previously convicted of assaulting or assaulting and battering his or her spouse, former spouse, an individual with whom he or she had a dating relationship, an individual with whom he or she had a child in common, or a resident or former resident of his or her household, or of knowingly assaulting a pregnant individual by violating Michigan Compiled Law 750.813 on or about May 11, 2021, and by violating Michigan Compiled Law 750.812 on or about May 22nd, 2012, and therefore upon conviction will be subject to an enhanced sentence under Michigan Compiled Law 750.815, making this a felony with a maximum penalty 5 years in prison and or $5,000 in fines, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed under Michigan Compiled Law 750.506A if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. There is a count 3 of interfering with electronic communications. It alleges that you did willfully and maliciously prevent, obstruct, or delay by any means the sending, conveyance, or delivery of an authorized communication by or through a telephone or telephone line, and that this was done contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 750.5405A. That's a felony, and the maximum penalty is 2 years and or $1,000 in fines. Mr. Blackman, do you understand each of the charges, and do you understand the maximum penalty associated with each of the charges?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have the right to be represented by counsel, and you are represented by Ms. Sutter today for the purposes of your arraignment only. You have the right to have an attorney to represent you at each stage of the criminal prosecution, or if you're questioned by law enforcement. If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, sir, you can request to have court-appointed counsel represent you at the expense of the public. Do you understand your right to counsel?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he requesting court-appointed counsel?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Blackman, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say, anything that you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty, you have the right to plead not guilty, and you have the right to stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date. At the time of your preliminary examination, sir, you have the right to have the prosecution establish that there's sufficient probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause sufficient to charge you as a defendant who committed the crime. This matter is to be bound over to the circuit court beyond the preliminary examination. You have the right then to have a trial. At the time of trial, you have the right to have a jury trial. You have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to remain silent at trial and not have silence be used to prove your guilt. You have the right to see, hear, or question any of the witnesses the prosecution intends to call. You have the right to call your own witnesses at trial or present evidence that you believe would further a defense. You have the right at trial to have the prosecution prove each element of the charge being brought against you, and they have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. You also have the right to be considered for release on bond, and we'll address bond in just a moment. But do you have any questions about your rights at this time?
No, ma'am.
Okay. For the purposes of his arraignment, how would he like to plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Court will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. Mr. Blackman, are you currently on probation or parole?
Probation.
Is that before Judge Ward?
Aquilina.
Judge Aquilina?
Yes, yes.
Okay. You're currently scheduled for probable cause conference before Judge Michael Anthony Flores. It's scheduled for Thursday, September 15, 2022 at 9:30 in the morning. You have a preliminary examination scheduled for Thursday, September 22nd, 2022 at 9:30 in the morning. Did you get a copy of your notices to appear, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your preliminary examination is going to be held in person at the court. Your probable cause conference, you should have received Zoom instructions that will be handled via Zoom, okay?
Okay.
Are you currently employed?
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you employed?
Flap Jackson Frandor.
What's your home address?
1006 Clear Street, Lansing, Michigan.
So 1006 Clear Street?
Yes.
What's your phone number?
281-1242.
Area code 517?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear, CLEAR?
Excuse me?
Your street is Clear, CLEAR? Or
Yeah,
Claire?
CLEAR.
Yeah.
Clear?
Thank you. Ms. Sutter, you can address bond.
Your Honor, would you like me to address first or Mr. Pfeiffer?
Mr. Pfeiffer, this is here. It's up to me, whoever wants to go first. It's up to you.
I can go first if that's fine with Public Defender's Office.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, Anthony Blackman is on felony probation with the 30th Circuit Court for assault, strangulation, and domestic violence, third offense of the same victim. And he committed that assault immediately after getting out of jail after pleading guilty to domestic violence, second offense of the same victim. He has a violent criminal history involving felonious assaults, assault resisting obstructive officers, criminal sexual conduct in the third degree by force or coercion, strangulations, and many domestic violence and assaults and batteries. He has a history of stopping the victim from calling 911 when he assaults her, which is also was alleged to have happened here. And I will note for the record and for the defendant that the people intend to add a 10-year felony of interfering with a crime report by committing a crime at the preliminary examination, because that is what he did. He also has a history of stopping the victim, Christina Coulson, from running away after he has assaulted her when she tries to get help. So immediately after he gets out of jail, he goes right to her, controls her, assaults her again. He has a long history of PA-53 violations. He has a long history of witness interference. I have records of him calling and sending her letters from the jail in previous cases to get her to get the cases dropped. And I have no doubt in my mind that he will continue to do so here. Your Honor, the people are requesting $50,000 cash surety. They're requesting a GPS tether. We'd ask that he be on house arrest. We also ask for an exclusion zone and victim notification. I don't believe anything less than that can keep the victim safe, because this is a continuing pattern where he beats her, he strangles her, he stops her from getting help, and he does so immediately upon his release from these courts. So, Your Honor, again, we're asking for $50,000 cash surety, GPS tether, house arrest, exclusion zone, and victim notification. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Sutter.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did speak with Mr. Blackman this morning. As he stated, he is living in the Lansing area. He lives in Lansing on Clear Street with his sister. In regards to the allegations against him, I do believe it's important to emphasize that they are allegations. Mr. Pfeiffer used lots of language like Mr. Blackman did this and Mr. Blackman has done this. These are merely allegations against Mr. Blackman, and I think that's important to keep in mind that Mr. Blackman does have constitutional rights here, including the presumption of innocence. I do understand the seriousness of the allegations against him, but they are merely allegations. He has not been found guilty of anything at this time. Given I do understand the seriousness of the charges, I would request that a 10% bond be set for Mr. Blackman so that he can continue working, as it is fairly new employment to him. And I think it's rather important that he keep that stable employment at Flapjacks. Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize there is a presumption of innocence. I also recognize Mr. Pfeiffer's statements were about what did occur, were about things in which Mr. Blackman has already been convicted of. So he does not have a presumption to innocence as to anything he's already been convicted of, and something that he's already on probation for, felony probation at that, and it involving the same alleged victim from this matter. As I reviewed his criminal history, it is laden with assaultive crimes. I believe there is a risk to the public safety and a huge risk based on the allegations to the victim, Christina Coulson. Because of that, the court will grant the request of Mr. Pfeiffer and the prosecution's office. Bond will be set in the amount of $50,000 cash surety with house arrest. And there will be GPS tether with victim notification. There's a no contact order in place, or that will be set in place for Christina Coulson, which I'm inclined to believe that if he's on felony probation, there's already one. So at this point, it's semantics that I'm adding another one, but we will be adding a no contact order to protect Christina Coulson. You're not to be within 1,500 feet of wherever she lives, works, or goes to school. You're not to have any contact or communication directly or indirectly And so for your information, Mr. Blackman, indirectly would mean any attempts to make phone calls, either from your own number or from someone else's number, any attempts to write letters or to private message and social media, any attempts to send smoke signals, all of those things would be indirect communication. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And those things would be in direct violation of the bond that's being set by this court. And I don't know if there is they're going to be a hold from Judge Aquilina, but as it relates to this one, any violations, you'll be subject to having the bond revoked pending this charge. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, also while on bond, sir, you're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You're not to engage in any assaultive or threatening behavior. You're not to use or possess alcohol or drugs unless you have a valid prescription. You're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You are to report to pretrial services within 48 hours. You're going to be reporting to them weekly if you post bond. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions about your bond at this time?
Nope.
Additional matters for the record, counsel?
Not from the people, Your Honor.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
You're all set, Mr. Blackman.
Take care, Your Honor.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You as well.
You too, Adam.
Also take care, Lauren.
Isa Williams. You remove your hood, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. For on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Isa Jawan Williams. File number is 22-02365. Council appearance.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Lauren Sutter on behalf of Mr. Williams for today's arraignment.
Thank you. Mr. Williams, today is the date that's set for an arraignment, and I have here a felony complaint that alleges that on or about September 6, 2022, at the area of 2403 Midwood in city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan, that you did allegedly, contrary to law, commit the act in count 1 of controlled substance possession of analogs. It alleges that you did knowingly or intentionally possess the controlled substance oxycodone, contrary to Michigan Compile Law 333.74032B2. It's a felony. The maximum penalty is 2 years and or $2,000 in fines. Do you understand the charge of the maximum penalty, sir?
Ma'am.
Okay. You have the right to be represented by counsel, and Ms. Sutter from the Public Defender's Office is here today for the purposes of your arraignment only. You have the right to have an attorney with you at each stage of the criminal prosecution, and you have the right to be represented by counsel if you're questioned by law enforcement. If you cannot afford to hire or retain an attorney, you can request to have court-appointed counsel appointed at the expense of the public. Do you understand your right to counsel?
Yes. Yes.
She requested court-appointed counsel?
He is, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Williams, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything that you put in writing can be used against you. Remove your hood, please. Thank you.
Yes.
You have the right to plead guilty, plead not guilty, or stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a preliminary examination in this matter, and you have the right to have a preliminary examination within 21 days of today's date. At the time of preliminary examination, you have the right to have the prosecution establish that there is sufficient probable cause that a crime was committed and sufficient probable cause to charge you as a defendant who committed the crime. Do you understand those rights?
Yes.
Okay. I see you looking off to the left and to the right. Is everything okay?
Yes.
Okay. If this matter is to proceed beyond the preliminary examination, Mr. Williams, you have the right to have this matter before the circuit court for a trial. You have the right to a jury trial. At the time of trial, you have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to remain silent at trial and not have silence be used against you. You have the right to see, hear, and question any of the witnesses the prosecution intends to call. You have the right to call your own witnesses or present evidence at trial that you believe would further a defense to the charge. And you have the right to have the prosecution prove each element of the charge being brought against you beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
You had a long night?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions about your rights?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Are you currently on probation or parole?
No, ma'am.
For the purposes of his arraignment, is he pleading not guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Williams, are you employed?
No.
What's your home address?
835 North Sycamore. 4906.
You said Sycamore?
Yes.
What's your phone number?
517-249-0736.
You're currently scheduled for probable cause conference before Judge Michael Anthony Flores. It's going to be on Thursday, September 15, 2022 at 9:30 in the morning. That'll be held via Zoom. You have a preliminary examination before Judge Flores on Thursday, September 22nd, 2022 at 9:30 in the morning. Did you get your notice to appear for those dates?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the preliminary examination will be in person at the court.
Okay.
Do you have any questions right now about your rights or your court appearance?
No, ma'am.
You can address bond, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Williams this morning about these charges against him. I do understand the serious nature of this felony charge. However, I did talk with Mr. Williams and he explained to me that he is living in the Lansing area with his wife. He's been here for a significant period of time and he does have 4 children that he cares for in their home. While he is not currently working, his wife does work and helps to support them while he cares for the children. As I said, I understand the seriousness of this felony charge. However, I don't see any allegations of violence included in these charges. And so I would request a personal recognizance bond on Mr. Williams' behalf. Thank you.
Mr. Williams, when's the last time you missed court?
It's been a while. But I do show up.
Do you do show up eventually, or
No, I
what's that
show up.
mean?
I show up every time.
You're gonna have an issue with appearing to court in person for your preliminary examination or appearing via Zoom for your
No.
probable cause conference?
No, ma'am.
I'll grant the request for personal recognizance bond. Bond will be set in the amount of $2,000 personal recognizance while out on bond. You're not to use or possess alcohol or drugs without a prescription. You're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. Not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon, and you need to report to pretrial services within 48 hours of your release. Do you have any questions about your bond, sir?
No, ma'am.
Any additional matters for the record?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
You're all set, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Mark Edward Pierce, file number 22-02363, SM, counsel appearance.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Lauren Sutter appearing today on behalf of Mr. Pierce for the purposes of arraignment.
Thank you. Are you Mark Edward Pierce?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mr. Pierce, I have a misdemeanor complaint here. It alleges that on or about September 6, 2022, at the area of 624 Lapeer Street, Apartment 3, which is located in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan, that you did allegedly, contrary to law, commit the act in count 1 of domestic violence. It alleges that you did make an assault or an assault and battery upon a Jasmine K. Perkins, a resident or former resident of your household, or an individual with whom you have a dating relationship, and that this was done contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 750.812. Restitution may be ordered as this offense may result in damage or may have resulted in damage to another individual's property or physical injury or death to another individual. This is a misdemeanor with a maximum penalty of 93 days in jail and or $500 in fines. You okay, sir?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. However, there is a second offense notice. It says, take notice that the defendant was previously convicted of assault or assaulting and battering his or her spouse or former spouse or an individual with whom he or she had a dating relationship, an individual with whom he or she had a child in common, or a resident or former resident of his or her household, or of knowingly assaulting a pregnant individual by violating Michigan Compiled Law 750.812 on or around September 30th, 2015, and therefore upon conviction will be subject to an enhanced sentence under Michigan Compiled Law 750.814. That enhances the sentence to a misdemeanor punishable with a maximum penalty of 1 year and or $1,000, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed under MCL 750.506A if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. Mr. Pierce, do you understand the charge and the maximum penalty?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You have the right to be represented by counsel. Ms. Sutter is representing you today for the purposes of your arraignment only. If you cannot afford to hire your own attorney, you can request to have court-appointed counsel appointed to represent you at the expense of the public. Do you understand your right to be represented by counsel?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Ms. Sutter, did he apply for court-appointed counsel?
He did, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, and Mr. Pierce, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty, and you have the right to stand mute. You have the right to proceed to a jury trial in this matter at the time of trial. You have the right to have the prosecution put on sufficient evidence to prove each element of the charge being brought against you. They have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to the presumption of innocence at trial until proven guilty. You have the right to see, hear, or question any of the witnesses the prosecution intends to call. You have the right to call your own witnesses at trial or present evidence at trial that you believe would further a defense. And you have the right to remain silent at trial and not have silence be used to prove your guilt. You also have the right to be released on bond pending trial. Do you have any questions about your rights at this time?
No, I don't.
Are you currently on probation or parole?
I'm on probation.
Before which court?
Clinton County.
His probation has been transferred to Ingham County, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, you're currently scheduled for a pretrial before Judge Cynthia Ward on September 20th, 2022 at 9 o'clock in the morning. That will be held via Zoom, or you can come in person if you do not have the ability to appear via Zoom. Did you get a copy of your notice to appear and Zoom instructions?
Yes, I did.
Okay. For the purposes of his arraignment, how would he like to plead, Ms. Sutter?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
And the court will enter a plea of not guilty on your behalf. can address bond counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Pierce this morning about this case. As he stated, he is on probation in front of the 30th Circuit, or it's been transferred to the 30th Circuit Probation Department. I've explained to him thoroughly the conditions of any no contact order that would be put in place, so he knows that he is not permitted to go anywhere near this individual and cannot for the pendency of this case. He's not currently working as he is disabled, so staying in incarceration is fairly difficult for him physically. I do understand the nature of the charge as well as the second offense notice. However, I would still request a personal recognizance bond with all appropriate bond conditions on Mr. Pierce's behalf. Thank you.
Okay, you said he's unemployed?
He's currently unemployed. He's on disability, Your Honor.
What's your home address, sir?
I have a mailing address only.
What's that?
It's 3010 Fauna Avenue.
3010 what?
Fauna, Fauna Avenue.
Okay. What is the 624 Lapeer address?
That's my home address.
Okay,
So I'm not
Is
gonna
that
be allowed to return there. I'm gonna go to the city rescue mission.
okay. What is that address? Is it 623 or is it 624?
It's 624.
That's apartment 3?
Yes.
What's your phone number?
517-319-7371.
Okay. Phone will be set in the amount of $500 personal recognizance with GPS tether and victim notification. While out on bond, you're not to have any contact directly or indirectly with Jasmine K. Perkins. You're not to be at the address of 624 Lapeer, apartment 3, City of Lansing, Ingham County. You're not to be within 1,500 feet of wherever Ms. Perkins lives, works, or goes to school. Do you have any questions about the no contact order, or do you need a definition of what indirect means? Because you're not allowed to have any kind of communication. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, also while out on bond, you're not to use, purchase, or possess alcohol or drugs unless you have a valid prescription. You're not to engage in any assaultive or threatening behavior. You're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. Do you have any questions at this time regarding your bond conditions?
So,
Any additional matters for the record, counsel?
I suppose just a question, Your Honor. I ran his name in the court system earlier and I'm seeing another file. I'm not sure if he's been arraigned on it or not. It's a case in front of yourself.
Yep, you're right. It's right here. On the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Mark Edward Pierce. This is file number 22-01691 SM. And Mr. Pierce, in this matter, I have a misdemeanor complaint. And it alleges that on or about November 10th, 2021, at the area of 845 East Miller Road, City of Lansing, Ingham County, State of Michigan, that you did allegedly commit the act in count 1 of littering on private property. It alleges that you did dump, deposit, or place filth, garbage, or refuse on the grounds or premises of North Cemetery without the specific permission of said person, and this was done contrary to Michigan Compile Law 750.552A. That's a misdemeanor, sir. The maximum penalty is 90 days in jail and or $500 in fines. Do you understand the charge there and the maximum penalty?
Yes, I do.
Okay. The rights that I just went over with you apply to this matter as well because it is a criminal matter. So you have the right to representation by counsel. You have the right to proceed to trial in this matter. You have the right to be presumed innocent at trial. You have the right to bring witnesses or evidence at trial that you believe would further defense. You have the right to see, hear, question any of the witnesses of the prosecution. You have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to remain silent at trial without having silence used to prove your guilt. I'll note here that you're requesting court-appointed counsel and that you're entering a plea of not guilty. Correct, Ms. Sutter?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay, you're currently scheduled for a pretrial conference before me, Judge Kristen Simmons. It's going to be Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 at 10 o'clock in the morning, and that'll be held via Zoom, okay?
Yes.
You can appear in person if necessary. Do you have any questions
No.
about that charge and the maximum penalty?
No, ma'am.
Bond will be set in the amount of $500 personal recognizance. All your bond conditions from your other file will apply in this one as well, okay, sir?
Okay.
Okay, any additional matters for the record?
Just to be sure, Your Honor, it's the $500 PR with all other conditions. Does that include GPS conditions in this file as well?
No, there's no GPS condition on that file.
Thank you very much. I have nothing further.
You're all set, Mr. Pierce. We're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Marcus Jefferson, file number 20-020120T, counsel appearance.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Lauren Sutter appearing today on behalf of Mr. Jefferson for the purposes of this arraignment only.
Thank you, Mr. Jefferson. Today's the date set for an arraignment. I have here a citation that alleges that on or about July 10, 2020, at approximately 9:06 a.m. in the area of East Kalamazoo Street and South Larch, located in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan, that you did allegedly contrary to law, commit the act of driving while your license was suspended, revoked, or denied. This is a misdemeanor and maximum penalty is 92 days in jail and or $500 in fines. Do you understand the charge, sir, and the maximum penalty?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and just for correction, it's actually the people of the city of Lansing and not the state of Michigan. So this is a city attorney case, okay?
Okay.
You have the right to be represented by counsel. You cannot afford to hire counsel. You can request to have counsel appointed at the expense of the public. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he requesting court-appointed counsel?
He is not at this time, Your Honor, although I've explained to him that he may later.
Okay. What's your home address, sir?
3105 Snowglen Lane, Lansing, Michigan.
The volume went out, so can you go say it again for me?
3105 Snowglen Lane, Lansing, Michigan, 48917.
And your phone number?
Mine is 517-894-2079.
Are you employed?
Yes, I'm full-time employed.
Okay, where's that?
I work in Jackson at Creekside Residential Nursing Home / Direct Care.
You're currently scheduled for a pre-trial before Judge Cynthia Ward Monday, September 19, 2022 at 9 o'clock in the morning. That'll be held via Zoom. Did you get notice to appear in a Zoom instruction, sir?
Yep.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? For the
Questions?
purposes of his arraignment, the court will enter a plea of not guilty on his behalf. I didn't hear you, sir.
I would just like to say, since all the incidents, I have gotten my license. So
That's,
currently,
Mr.
I have a
Jefferson, that's
legit
good. You'll
license.
handle that later. That's fine. You don't need to say that.
I'll note it here in the file so that they'll know. It's just typical that all they're gonna do is actually declare your license anyways. And bring it, I'll note it here so that the court is aware for your pretrial, okay, sir? Bring proof of your license to your next court date. And they
Yes,
should
ma'am.
be willing to dismiss it if it's been cleared, okay?
Okay, that's good to know.
Bond will be set in the amount of 200 personal recognizance. Make sure you appear to all your future court dates on time, okay, sir?
I can do that, man.
Okay, do you have any questions?
Is there anything holding me back from walking out today on the streets?
Not on this file.
Okay, so I wanted to know.
All right, you're all set, sir.
Yeah.
Can you get my water bottle for me, please? Ready for Collins?
I'm on my way to turn the mobile card on for Mr. Collins, ma'am, about 30 seconds to a minute, if that works for you.
No problem, thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Mr. Fink is here with Mr. Allsweed. I do not see anybody here for you, Mr. Dua. Is there anybody in the hallway? I think I ordered him in person. Okay, Mr. Dua, Derek Bird has failed to appear. You can submit default.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And then, when we were here last week, Mr. Fink and Mr. Allsweed was informed that Mr. Allsweed had applied for Sarah, but he did not have a Sarah number. Do you have a Sarah number now, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is that Sarah number?
765791. And it's being
Okay, so
processed
here-
for payment right now.
Is that a recert number?
No, that was just the number they gave me this morning because I finally got a hold of the caseworker.
Very good. Okay, Mr. Fink, we're going to stay the case while his application is being processed, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. You're all set for today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and Mr. Dewar, I'm gonna turn your camera off because we got another arraignment that we're about to do before your 2:30.
No problem, Your Honor. I can turn it off. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, you're Mr. James Collins.
Yes.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay, very good. We're on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus James Collins, and the file number is 22-02366. Council appearance.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Lauren Sutter appearing today on behalf of Mr. Collins for the purposes of this arraignment.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, I have here a misdemeanor complaint. It alleges that on or about September 7, 2022, at the area of 812.5 West Genesee, which is located in the city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan, that you did allegedly in count one commit the act of domestic violence. It alleges that you did make an assault or an assault and battery upon a Stephen Anthony Austin, a resident or former resident of your household, and or an individual with whom you have a dating relationship, and that this was done contrary to Michigan Compiled Law 750.812. Restitution may be ordered as this offense may have resulted in damage to another individual's property or physical injury or death to another individual. This is a misdemeanor, sir. The maximum penalty is 93 days in jail and or $500 in fines. A consecutive sentence may be ordered if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. Did you have a question, sir?
Your Honor, can you hear us at all?
I don't. I can see he's trying to say something.
I think their
Can you hear
camera's
us?
frozen.
It does look frozen to me.
I'll just hang around and see if they log back in, Your Honor.
No problem. Okay, can you hear me, Mr. Collins?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. I'm not sure what happened with the disconnection, but were you trying to ask something?
Well, I just couldn't, you got froze and I was just wondering what happened.
Okay, very good. So we'll go over the complaint again. Again, it's a misdemeanor complaint, and it alleges that on or about September 7, 2022, at 812 and a half West Genesee, City of Lansing, Ingham County, State of Michigan, that you did allegedly in count one commit the act of domestic violence. It alleges that you did make an assault or an assault and battery upon a Stephen Anthony Austin, who is a resident or former resident of your household, or an individual with whom you have a dating relationship, and that this was done contrary to Michigan Compile Law 750.812. Restitution may be ordered as this offense may have resulted in damage to another individual's property or physical injury or death to another individual under MCL 780.811A. This is a misdemeanor. The maximum penalty is 93 days and or $500 in fines. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under the law if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. Do you understand the charge and the maximum penalty, sir?
Yes.
Okay. You have the right to be represented by counsel. Ms. Sutter from the Public Defender's Office is representing you for the purposes of your arraignment today, but you have the right to have an attorney with you at each stage of the criminal prosecution and if you're questioned by law enforcement. If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, sir, you can request to have court-appointed counsel appointed to represent you at the expense of the public. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you put in writing can be used against you. You have the right to plead guilty. You have the right to plead not guilty, and you have the right to stand mute. You have the right to proceed to trial in this matter. You have a right to jury trial. At the time of trial, you have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to have the prosecution prove each element of the charge being brought against you. They have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to see, hear, or question any of the witnesses that the prosecution intends to call. You have the right to call your own witnesses at trial or present evidence at trial that you believe would further a defense. You have the right to remain silent at trial and not have silence be used to prove your guilt. Do you understand those rights?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about your rights at this time?
No.
Are you currently on probation or parole?
No.
Okay, for the purposes of this arraignment, is he pleading not guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
And has he requested court-appointed counsel?
He is.
Are you currently employed, sir?
I'm not. I'm going to school
Okay, are you in school full-time now?
full time.
What's your home address? Is it the 812 and a half Genesee?
Yes, but I have another address to go to.
Okay, what address will you go to during this case?
3019 West Jolly Road. That's Lansing, Michigan, 48911. It's my grandmother's home.
Oh, okay, what's your phone number?
269-341-1174.
You're currently scheduled for a pretrial conference before Judge Michael Anthony Flores on September 19th at 10 a.m. That'll be held via Zoom. You can appear in person if you don't have the ability to appear via Zoom, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions at this time?
No.
You can address bond counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. I spoke with Mr. Collins this morning. He did explain to me that he is going to be staying at that West Jolly address with his grandmother after I explained the conditions of any no contact order with him. So he is well aware that he is not to be anywhere near the vicinity of Mr. Stephen Austin. As he told the court, he is a full-time student. He started classes yesterday at Mott Community College where he's studying digital and media arts. He does have a father who lives in the area as well, who he is well supported by. So he does have some significant family connections in the area. I do understand that this is an assaultive charge. However, I don't believe he is a danger to himself or the community or a flight risk. So I would request a personal recognizance bond on his behalf with any appropriate bond conditions. Thank you.
Bond will be set in the amount of $500 personal recognizance while out on bond. You're not to have any contact directly or indirectly with the alleged victim, Stephen Austin, okay? You're not to have contact directly or indirectly. You're also not to be within 1,500 feet of wherever Mr. Austin lives, works, or goes to school. You're not to enter into the address of 812.5 West Genesee. I will allow you to go once with either a peace officer or to arrange a third party to go and get your personal items like your clothes or medication or something, okay?
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Also, while out on bond, you're not to engage in any assaultive or threatening behavior. You're not to use, purchase, or possess alcohol or drugs without a valid prescription. You're not to travel outside the state without prior approval of the court. You're not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. You need to make sure you report to all of your future court dates, okay, sir?
Okay.
So that your bond will not be revoked and you won't be remanded to the custody pending this matter. Do you have any questions at this time?
No, I do not. Just that you said, I'll have my court date on my paperwork, right?
You should have received, or you should receive a court paperwork that tells you that you have a pretrial before Judge Flores. It's on the 19th of September, and it should also have Zoom instructions, okay?
Okay, all right, I got it. Thank you.
No problem. Any additional questions?
No.
Any matters for the record, counsel?
No, thank you.
Okay, you're all set, sir. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, Your Honor.
Same to you. Okay. And then there's nobody here. Oh, these people have a serial number. Mr. Dua,
Yes, Your Honor.
looks like Mr. Weekly applied for Sarah. Mr. Rosa sent us an email.
Okay.
So we're
do-
gonna stay the case. And the Sarah number
Yes, please.
is 235-239, Recert 1.
Excellent. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. You're all set.
Appreciate it.